Welcome to Cultivating Love, Wisdom for Life, where integrated wisdom is the best way to live. My name is Dr. Ken McGill, the author of the Cultivating Love book series, and today in this episode, I'd like to continue talking about what's in the box of my new book, Cultivating Love, Wisdom for Life. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at the contents of Section 5 and the appendix in the book. Section 5 is titled Gold, Silver, Rubies, and Precautions, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3, which are practical insights about wisdom from the Book of Proverbs. Section 5 also contains the final wisdom tool number 17, Post-it Note Wisdom, which are practical insights for you to record from Wisdom for Life. And Section 5 contains the final comments about Cultivating Love, Wisdom for Life, and of course the appendix. The appendix contains the Karpman triangle and the equality empowerment triangle. That is Appendix A. Appendix B is the list of 442 character values and virtues. And Appendix C is the list of 176 character defects. So you'll also find information about the other books in the Cultivating Love series as well in the appendix of the book. So let's talk about what's in Section 5 of Cultivating Love, Wisdom for Life. The section title is actually taken from a verse in the Book of Proverbs, which is Proverbs chapter 3, verses 13 through 18. And if you don't mind, allow me to read it to you. Blessed is the man who finds wisdom, the man who gains understanding, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. She is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. Long life is in her right hand. In her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are pleasant ways, and all of her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to those who embrace her, and those who lay hold of her will be blessed. There are a couple of other verses that mirror the value of wisdom, which are, how much better to get wisdom than gold, to get insight rather than silver, Proverbs 16:16, and gold there is and rubies in abundance, but lips that speak knowledge are a rare jewel, Proverbs 20:15. So in the last episode about Section 4, where I mentioned the healthy adult mode behaviors was the inspiration for Cultivating Love, Wisdom for Life, it's actually in the Book of Proverbs where the idea of the book came into being. Because as I read the Book of Proverbs, often called the wisdom book in the Bible, I was interested in the meaning and principles that were connected to the word wisdom as it appeared in the text. So in Gold, Silver, Rubies, and Precautions Part 1, I've included all of the verses where the word wisdom appears from the New International Version translation, for you to extract meaning and to draw your own conclusions as to how these words impact your life. In Gold, Silver, Rubies, and Precautions Part 2, you'll also receive another set of scriptural verses from the Book of Proverbs, but in this block, although the word wisdom is not used in these passages, there are valuable gems to be mined in these verses, and I encourage you, again, to extract meaning and draw your own conclusions as to how these words may impact your life. But I do encourage you to take them deep into your heart. And then finally, in Gold, Silver, Rubies, and Precautions Part 3, you'll receive the final set of scriptures from the Book of Proverbs. However, here, caution is recommended to prevent the reader from slipping into maladaptive behaviors as they're pointed out in the text. I do, again, encourage you to extract meaning and draw your own conclusions here as well as to how these words impact your life, and to also take these to heart just as you've done with the previous blocks of scripture. So in the final wisdom tool number 17, Post-its, which are positive and practical insights about wisdom from Proverbs, I encourage you to use this simple tool to just jot down meaningful, inspirational, and motivating statements, phrases, quotes, or slogans that you've heard somewhere in your life, or that you've extracted from one of the pages or exercises that you've worked on in Cultivating Love, Wisdom for Life, and then to reproduce it on a Post-it note that you'll display somewhere in your home or your work environment. The intent is actually to have a daily reminder of the wise and valuable nuggets of information that you've collected over the course of your life. Note, pun intended, but note, if it was meaningful then, it could be meaningful now. And it just might be the input that you need to hear to guide your thoughts, feelings, and behavior toward positive thinking or inspired outcomes. Now, in the appendix, you'll read about a very valuable clinical process called the Karpman triangle and the equality empowerment triangles. This is a must-read because of the valuable information about these two triangles, and here's why, as I share a bit of information from the introduction of the Karpman and equality empowerment triangles exercises. So having legitimate psychological and relational needs, but not being able to or choosing not to talk about them honestly, constructively, nor collaboratively could create internal and relationship tension, distress, emotional flooding episodes, and possibly put your own recovery in jeopardy. The phrases victim, rescuer, and persecutor have found their way into our language, thankfully due to the work of Dr. Stephen Karpman, who identified how legitimate psychological needs, wants, and problems never get solved due to one or both people in a relationship moving around what was first called the drama triangle. Here, drama, gamesmanship, operating from one of the younger ego states, one-upping each other, and the use of other tactics to gain control and power over another person ensures that problems will continue in what usually promises to be a chaotic and a frustrating process. So the purpose of this exercise is to provide you with a brief introduction about the Karpman drama triangle, which will help you to illuminate how your communication and relationship patterns become and remain derailed. In addition, a positive problem-solving model called equality empowerment triangle is suggested to help one or both of you to return to a more adult-to-adult and complementary way of viewing problems, communicating about your wants and your needs, and implementing reasonable and agreed-upon solutions. So as you move around the equality empowerment triangle, you are encouraged to take personal responsibility, to use your energy and your creativity to not only improve your communication and relationship dynamics, but also to conceptualize, brainstorm, discuss, negotiate, and resolve your problems with win-win outcomes. A quick reference guide is also provided to help you to track where automatic negative thinking leads you to implement unhealthy Karpman triangle behaviors, and conversely, where solution-oriented thinking leads you to implement equalitarian and empowering behaviors. So one of the most important pieces of information that I could leave with you about the Karpman drama and the equality empowerment triangles is this. Know that if you attempt to have a complementary adult-to-adult conversation with another person, and if one or both of you derail into verbally abusive or manipulative dialogue, you have lapsed into a younger ego state, and you are also on the Karpman red triangle. And more than likely, you will never solve your problem as you operate in this ego state stance or position. The adapted adolescent, or as ego state theory calls him, the little professor, wounded child, or critical parent ego states, are in the executive position and will conceptualize the problems from the mindset of an adolescent and subsequently employ juvenile strategies to covertly get your needs and your wants met. Typically, this causes drama, chaos, frustration, and in some cases, severe pain, as the problem never gets resolved as you cycle around and around the Karpman triangle again and again and again. On the other hand, You will have to use your tools, of which the first aid kit for emotional flooding is one of the tools, to ground yourself, return to a functional adult ego state, where you will be able to view and discuss your needs from an adult perspective, with adult language, with adult values, and with adult strategies. If you operate from this ego state, then you are taking responsibility to determine win-win solutions, which automatically places you in the equality, empowerment, green triangle, which is the only triangle where healthy, mature outcomes will be realized. So thanks for letting me share about the Karpman and the equality empowerment triangles, which is actually an excerpt from one of my previous books in the Cultivating Love series, which are Cultivating Love When Secrets Surface and Cultivating Love Finishing Strong. And I do encourage you to visit my Amazon page to learn more about those helpful resources. So here are my final comments about Cultivating Love, Wisdom for Life. Allow me to share them with you. Thank you for allowing me to convey my thoughts about human behavior and how, as human beings, we can become wise human beings. As I complete Cultivating Love, Wisdom for Life, I'd like to share 3 things with you. First, I pray that you feel my love and hope for you in these pages, as it is my ardent desire for you to connect with your God, your higher power, to gain insight, wisdom, and love. Then love yourself beyond measure to benefit from your actions, and love others as you are led to love them. Whether they are humans, animals, or our planet, they likely need to experience love that lets them know you care for them. I hope you love wisely, unconditionally, and effectually. Second, don't give up on yourself, your situation, or your ability to grow and produce mature behaviors that reflect that you are becoming wise and skilled at living. I believe in you as a human being, and Proverbs 8:17 was one of the first Bible verses I memorized. I love those who love me, and those who seek me will find me. Personally, I found this verse to be true, and I trust it will be true for you too, as you apply these principles and paint them into reality, into your daily life and your interaction with others. I do encourage you to read through these pages over the course of a year. Then start over again. Pick up this book when you feel that you need wisdom, and don't put it down when you feel you've achieved wisdom. If you plant these seeds of knowledge into the soil of your head and your heart, you should expect to produce and eventually harvest behaviors marked by wisdom. So plant these processes into your garden. You'll be glad that you did. And finally, having lived on this earth and traveled around the sun 64 times the years of my life, and about to enter Erik Erikson's, you read about him in section 1, but about to read about Erik Erikson's final psychosocial stage of development, which is called ego integrity versus despair, and it's age 65 and up. And the virtue for this stage is actually wisdom. I am glad that my God has helped me to grow and deliver wisdom in all areas of my life, personally and professionally. My life has had so much meaning, purpose, and joy as I've taken what my God has given to me, and with the Cultivating Love book series, born from experiences over the course of my life, has helped me to love my neighbors wherever I met them. This is also a book that I wish I had found during my teen years, as I know that it would have helped me to develop pro-social values with my identity formation, ages 13 to 19, foundational and positive experiences with love and intimacy, ages 20 to 35, and focused self and other care for myself, my family, and my neighbors around the world, ages 36 to 65, being true to Erik Erikson's psychosocial stages of development. However, as much as I know that these words would have helped me to avoid the challenges I had in my life, I'm not sure that Cultivating Love, Wisdom for Life would have been written without those challenges. So inviting God into my life as I needed and sought his wisdom helped me to convert my pain into my purpose, and ultimately my purpose into my passion. Thank you, Brian Johnson, who wrote the book Arete, the Greek word for virtue and excellence. The final behavioral brushstroke that I'll pass on to you is fruit that remains on the vine gets sweeter as it matures. That's found in the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verses 4 and 5. So please, by all means, stay connected to your God. I wish you the very best on your life journey, and as you invite God into your life to cultivate sweet and mature love and wisdom for life. Feel free to let me know what wise changes that you have made because of applying the principles outlined in this book. You can reach me via my website, drkenmcgill.com, or my blog, drkenmcgill.me. Thank you for listening. And in the final podcast connected to the introduction of this book, Cultivating Love, Wisdom for Life, I will share with you entries that people have sent to me, and I call this What People Are Saying About Cultivating Love, Wisdom for Life. You can also find a lot of helpful counseling materials on my website, drkenmcgill.com, or my blog, drkenmcgill.me, or on this YouTube channel, Cultivating Love, Wisdom for Life, and you can hear podcasts on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and other platforms. So thank you again, and I'm Dr. Ken McGill, author of the Cultivating Love book series, where integrated wisdom is the best way to live.